Algebra 2, Test 5 Study Guide, Part 2, picking up on number 11. 2 is equal to x over 8 minus 7. Goal is still to get x by itself on one side of the equal sign. You have divided by 8 and minus 7. You work order of operations backwards. You undo minus 7 by adding 7 to both sides. If you add it there, add it here. 2 plus 7 is 9 equals x over 8. That means x divided by 8. So cancel out divide by 8 by multiplying both sides by 8. 9 times 8 is 72. So x is 72. 7 plus 8n equals 63. Move over your positive 7n or your plus 7, I'm sorry, positive 7 or plus 7 by subtracting it. If you do it there, do it here. Leaves you with 8n on the left equals 56 on the right. Undo 8 times n by dividing by 8 on both sides, and n is 7. You have to distribute first 4 times y and 3. 4 times y and 4 times 3 plus 12 is 40. Undo your plus 12 order of operations, minus 12 on both sides. 4y is equal to 28. Undo 4 times y by dividing by 4 on both sides. Y is 7. Solve the equation for the indicated variable, or solve the equation or formula for the indicated variable. So it says solve for t. S is equal to 3 times r squared times t. If you need to separate them, you can say 3 times r squared times t. Don't let the r squared part confuse you right here. You work order of operations backwards. Before you undo exponents, you have to undo multiplication. And then before that, you have to undo any addition and subtraction. But we don't have that. So you undo this multiplication, 3 times r squared times t, by dividing by everything that's not t, since that's what we're looking for. Everything that's not t is 3 and r squared. If you do it to the right side, do likewise to the left side, divide by 3 and r squared. This cancels this and this cancels this. T's left by itself is equal to s over 3 times r squared. P is equal to 2u over e. Get u by itself. Undo divide by e by multiplying both sides by e. If you multiply that one, multiply this one, it'll cancel on this side and leave you with e times t is equal to 2 times u. Then undo 2 times something by dividing by 2. If you do it there, do it here as well. E over et divided by 2 equals u. And u is solving for u, therefore it's simplified, or it's isolated. Simplify negative 6 plus 5 squared times 3 minus 5 cubed. Do what's inside parentheses first, and once you're inside parentheses, do your order of operations. So before you add negative 6 and 5, you have to do 5 squared. Gives us 25 there. So we have negative 6 plus that, still in parentheses, times 3 minus 5 cubed. Do what's in parentheses now. Opposite sides, negative 6 and positive 25. Subtract them. 25 minus 6 is 19. You have 3 minus 5, which is going to be negative 2. And that's cubed. Again, before you multiply 19 and negative 2, you need to cube negative 2. That means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Anytime you have a negative value with an odd exponent like this, it's going to be negative at the end. So no, not at the end, but after. Negative 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So we're multiplying a negative 8 times 19. So we know it's going to come out to be a negative number at the end. 9 times 2 is 72. We carry our 7, 8 times, I said 9 times 2, 9 times 8 is 72. If we carry our 7, 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 is 15. So we have a negative 152. Okay, here we go. Graph the equation. Been a while, but this is in a nice, easy to graph format. This is the slope-intercept form. Y is equal to mx plus b. Everybody in here remembers that. If you don't, make sure you see me after class so I can get you caught up on that. Y equals mx plus b. B is your y-intercept. Remember, b tells you where to begin. If you ever get those two confused, that's where you start at 2. On your y axis, you're going to begin where its value is 1, 2. That's where you're going to put your first point right there. From there, your m tells you where to move. That's what the m stands for. It's your slope, but it tells you where to move. You have 3 over 5. It rises over its run, up and down over left and right. Rise, since it's positive, is up 3. Run, since it's positive, is to the right, because we know our positives are to the right, our negatives are to the left. So from the point we already have, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3 more, and we're going to go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, and we're going to put our second point there. Once you have 2 points, you can connect the dots like Pee Wee Herman, and there is your graph. Number 18 says to find the slope. So does number 19. You got a picture for 18. You got points for 19. Same thing, though. You have these 2 points right here. Now, you have to notice about this that it's counting by 2s. Each of the lines on the graph are 2 instead of 1. So when you see that it's in the middle like that, just make sure you make a note of that. This point right here is actually at the value 3, if you notice it, because it's in the middle. And it's also at the value here, 7. So don't let that confuse you. That's the only confusing part, or the only semi-confusing part. Okay? So if we go down from there, we're going to go down 1, because remember, it's your rise over your run. How many times it goes up and down over how many times it goes left and right. You always want to start at the one that's furthest to the left. So this one's farther left than the other one. So from there, you're going to go down 1 time, and then 2 times, so that's 3 times total, just the way you don't lose count, and then down 1 more time, again, because the lines themselves counted by 2. So that's actually down 4, which is a negative 4. Down is a negative value. And we're only going to go to the right 1 time. Since we're in the middle, we're just going over once. We're not going a whole line. So it's not like counting by 2. You're just going over to the right 1 time. So here's your slope, negative 4 over 1. There's no reason to write anything as over 1. So your slope is simply negative 4 for that one. M represents your slope. If you ever get confused between M and B, remember M looks like 2 little mountain peaks, and mountain peaks have slopes. When you're trying to find a slope given 2 points like number 19, 9, 10, and 3, negative 6, you can do it 2 different ways. You could plug it into the slope formula, which most people remember it, but they don't remember it exactly. M is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, the difference of those two. That's why you subtract them, over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, the difference of those two. The key to this, though, is to make sure you have sub 2 stacked on top of sub 2 and sub 1 on top of sub 1. It doesn't matter if you reverse them. Just make sure you reverse both of them. They have to be stacked. Another way most students do it is what they do is they know that this is your y values, negative 6 and 10, and they say, okay, well, negative 6 minus 10, negative 6 minus 10, over, they know these are their x values, 3 minus 9. Notice I went the same way both times. I went from right to left. 3 minus 9. And that creates the same thing as that formula that I just did. Negative 6 minus 10 is negative 16. And 3 minus 9 is negative 6. So we have 2 negatives. So we know when we divide those two, we're going to get a positive. And we know that the number 2 can go into both of them. It can go into 16 8 times, and it can go into 6 3 times. So your slope went from being negative, since they had negative numbers shown, to positive, because a negative divided by negative is a positive 8 over 3. 20, 21, and 22, very simple problems. 20 says 6 minus a negative 7. Remember, you add the opposite, so what this becomes is 6 plus a positive 7, 13 for that one. 4 times a negative 5, positive times a negative becomes a negative value. 4 times 5 is 20. And then this is a division symbol in case it looks like a plus on your paper. Make sure you write in division. Negative 24 divided by 3. Again, same thing. Opposite signs is going to be negative, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. Divide these two, just in case, again, you thought that was a plus. There's a big word right above it that says divide, so don't make that mistake. 3 over 8 divided by 8 over 40. In order to divide fractions, you leave the first fraction just like it is. You take the symbol itself, division, and you make it into multiplication, and you use that fancy schmancy word reciprocal and flip it. 8 over 40 becomes 40 over 8. Now you can multiply straight across and get 120 on the top and you get 64 on the bottom. Or you could say, well, I think the number 8 goes into this one and this one. Or you could do 40 divided by 8 right from the jump and create 5. I like to cross cancel just to get, because I'm used to doing that. So whatever way is more comfortable with you. 8 goes into this one time. 8 goes into this one 5 times. And again, it's the same 5 that I was just talking about. Multiplying straight across right now, 3 times 5 is 15, and 1 times 8 is 8. This doesn't simplify any farther because there's no number that goes into both of them. 24 says to evaluate y is equal to x plus 5 times x minus 3 when x is 7. So in place of each of these x values right here, we're going to sub in 7. Y equals 7 plus 5 times 7 minus 3. Again, if it made a difference, you would have to assume, or you would have to make sure that you put the 7 in parentheses. But since we're not dealing with any exponents or anything, it doesn't matter. 7 plus 5 is 12. And 7 minus 3 is 4. So we have y is 12 times 4, or y is 48. Two different properties right here. The first one, 6 times x plus 5 is equal to 6x plus 30. Everybody in here knows exactly what to do with this. Some people just forget what it's called. Everybody knows in order to get from 6 times x plus 5 to 6x plus 30, you multiply 6 times x and 6 times 5. Nobody in here, nobody sitting in this class right now has a problem with that. Some people just forget that that's distributing the 6 to both numbers. Therefore, this is the distributive property. The second one, pi times 8, is equal to 8 times pi. On the left side, the equal sign, it says pi times 8. On the right side, it says 8 times pi. Nothing changed except the position. They moved. Think about people that move when they go to work. They go from one city to another city. They commute from one city to the other city. So this is the commutative property. 27 says to evaluate the expression for the given value of the variables. In place of A, we're going to plug in -2 or sub in -2. In place of B, we're going to sub in 1. So 5 times -2 minus 2 times 1. -10 minus 2, -12. 2x squared plus 6x plus 1 when x is 2. So in place of x, we're plugging in 2. We're plugging it in 2 spots there and there. So we have 2 times 2 squared plus 6 times 2 plus 1. Evaluate your exponents first. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 plus 6 times 2 plus 1. Multiplications next. 2 times 4 is 8. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1. 8 plus 12 is 20, and 20 plus 1 is 21. And then the last one, number 29. X cubed plus 2x squared plus 2x plus 3 when x's value is -3. Again, we're plugging in a value for x, but we're plugging it into 1, 2, 3 different spots. So x squared is going to become -1, and it acts like it's in parentheses just in case you don't forget, you don't remember to do that, plus 2 times -1 squared plus 2 times -1 plus 3. Don't forget there's a plus 3 there. Evaluate your exponents first. -1 to the third power. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a negative is going to be a negative. It doesn't matter how many times you multiply 1, it's still going to be 1. Same thing with 2 times -1 squared. It's going to be plus 2 times -1 times -1 is +1. Plus 2 times -1 plus 3. Multiplications next. You still have -1 here. These two together are plus 2. These two together are -2 plus 3. -1 plus 2 is 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. And -1 plus 3 is 2.